So what I like to do before I put in my head studs here into the block, I like to just take my chaser and I'll run it down through the holes here by hand first, just to make sure that there's nothing inside the threads. There's nothing that's going to jam up the head stud when I put it in. So what I like to do is, I'll just take my chaser and I'll thread it down by hand. And I'll just go all the way down to the bottom and then all the way right back out. Just making sure that it's getting those threads in there nice and clean. And when you take it out, there might be some stuff on there. You can go ahead and clean that off. And then what I'll do is I'll just move on to the next one by hand. I'll go all the way down like I did, come right back all the way up. And this will ensure that your threads are nice and cleaned out. So when you go to put your head up on top and you put your head studs in and you go to tighten it, it's not going to bind up on something. It's not going to turn the whole stud on you when you're just trying to turn the nut on the top. This will ensure that you get your head studs all the way down into the block first before you go ahead and start to tighten it up. And again, I'll just repeat the process again on every single one of these here. Go all the way down by hand, just to ensure it's a good, nice clean thread. Then I'll just bring it up again, check on my little chaser here if there's any debris, and if so, I'll clean it out. And again, I'll just go ahead and do all of these holes here, these head stud threads, before I get ready to put the head studs in, before I put the head and all that back on, just to ensure I have clean threads. So before I put the head studs in, I just like to make sure that this surface is basically just clean and not filled with any oils or debris. So what I like to do is I take a clean lint-free rag and some brake parts cleaner, and I'll just spray some on there, and I will go ahead and just wipe up the surfaces here, making sure that all these mating contact surfaces like that are free of any oils. So when I put the head gasket down, it makes a good seal. A little bit more, I'll just make sure to go through this whole mating surface of the block here with some brake parts cleaner until I am cleaning the rag and nothing else comes off on the rag. Then I know I'll be done. So I like to do this before I put the head studs in, because it makes it basically impossible to do so when the head studs are in. So I like to do this, just get all the oil off of the mating surface. Nice clean surface to go ahead and put your head gasket down. So when putting in the head studs, you want to remember to use some moly lube. You don't have to use a lot, but you do want to put it on the threads here. Go ahead and just like to get a little bit on there just so it makes it easier. And then I'll go ahead and hand tighten them all the way down. Do keep in mind the ARP head studs, they do have this Allen key here. So that side is going to be up. Don't put that other side down first. And I'll just go ahead and, do all of these by hand here first. So after I screw all these in hand tight, I like to just take, the Allen wrench, and I'll go ahead and I'll check all of them, just make sure they're all the way down just by hand like that. I'm not going to go ahead and do it this way. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure in there. I'm just going to make sure that they're all the way down, each and every single one of those, before I move on to the next step, which would then be putting the head gasket onto the block. Make sure there's no debris on there like that guy there was. Then we'll go ahead and get ready. We want to line up the gasket, the head gasket here. Goes right over those. Slip it on just like that. And then after I get the head gasket on, what I like to do is clean the bottom of the head, the same way that I did the top of the block with the brake parts cleaner on a rag. I'll clean the bottom of the head, and then once it's all good to go, I will then line up the head right above this, and then kind of slowly put it down on the engine hoist, and then I will tighten everything up. I like to go ahead and just, clean the bottom surface of the head with the brake parts cleaner as well, just to make sure that there's nothing on the mating surfaces on the head gasket, so it makes a good seal. I like to just clean it all. When there's nothing left on the rag, then I know it's good to go. So I'll clean all of this again before I drop it onto the head studs and head gasket. All right, then I like to just have the engine hoisted, the head hoisted up, just kind of dangling above where I'm going to put it at. And so I usually just kind of like to line it up, and I'll go very, very, very slowly, because I don't want anything to fall or crack or break. There we go. Once I have a little bit of slack on it, I usually do that. Then I can go ahead and line up all the holes. Make sure everything is lined up. And just like that, we got our head in. We have our washers, our studs. The next thing that I like to do is I'm going to go ahead and moly lube up the actual nuts that will go onto the studs here. And then we will go ahead and tighten all those down in the correct sequence and order that the FSM says. So I'll go ahead and get all those ready, and then we can go ahead and tighten up this head, and hit this head gasket. Will be a done job. All right, so when we tighten the studs down, I already have my torque sequence right here next to me, so I can see which one's which. But we're going to torque these down to 80 foot-pounds, and I don't just start at 80 foot-pounds. I kind of do it in progressions. I will first start at 25 pounds, and I will go ahead and torque all of these down to 25 pounds in the correct order that they need to be torqued. And then I'll move up to 55, and I'll repeat the same process. And after 55, then I'll go ahead and do my 80, and then retorque them at the same. Once I've done retorquing them at 80, just for myself, I like to go back and retorque them at 80 just to make sure all of them are at 80. So again, I start at 25, and then I work my way up.
There's that click there, then I move on to the next one.
Then again, I'll go ahead and repeat the same process at 55 in the same order that they need to be tightened in. lastly, we'll finish it up with 80. And that's it. After you do it with the 80, go ahead and just check them all again just to make sure that they're all torqued down to 80. And that's how you go and replace the head gasket on a 1JZ.